Well, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. We're so excited to talk to you for our Career Tricks program. I'd love to begin by just learning a little bit more about yourself.
Okay. Well, my name's Adrena Stephanie. I'm actually a former UNT, but at the time it was North Texas State University when I went back in 1987. So I've kind of come full circle. I started at UNT in 87, and when I returned to school back in 2019, after raising family and getting kids out of the home, I decided to complete my degree. And so I did return to University of North Texas to finish that. But when I originally went, my degree or my major at that time was elementary education. However, as you know, you grow and mature and everything, and you really get an understanding of kind of life. I decided that a lot of the jobs that I've had to do with serving individuals with disabilities, and so that's just kind of the field. It was just really natural for me and just pretty easy for me. So that's why I chose to major in rehabilitation studies.
That's amazing. That's so cool. I'm sure things have changed a lot
Yeah.
when you came back, especially with the name change. I'm sure it's hard enough to say the right school name. But yeah, thank you for sharing. That's really cool. All right. So next question. So how did you find your internship with Tarrant County?
So I found my internship. We did have to do a practicum. It was a short practicum course, which gives you the ins and outs of the practicum before you could actually register for the practicum. Also, there was a list of practicum sites that had been just accumulated over some time. And it had a wealth of information. And there was one in particular that I was looking at that I thought that I was really interested in. And there was one place called Fort Behavioral Health. And I thought, this sounds like a really good, interesting one. And so from that list, I was looking at some, and I had kind of scoped it out. And then I saw Tarrant County College on there. And at the time, I'd worked at Tarrant County College before, but also I was like in the process of a job interview for Tarrant County College. And I thought, you know what, this would be great. And so that's how it kind of happened with that, where I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to do Fort Behavioral Health. But when I looked down and I saw Tarrant County College, I was like, whoop, doesn't get any better than that, especially after Dr. Sharma says, if you currently work in a field and they work with individuals with disabilities. And I thought, that's just a win-win. So that's how I selected TCC. So it's pretty easy, the Student Accessibility Resources Office.
That's wonderful. It's wonderful to know. Yeah, it sounds like the stars aligned. That was like the perfect
Yes.
match. So that's really wonderful. So you spoke on this tiny bit, but so what was the application process like?
So the application process, I think mine's may have been just a little different because I was actually, like I said, I was in the process of employment for it, but I'm sure there's probably an application that you have to submit, and maybe just an interview or something with the director of counseling. But I didn't have to submit a formal application process. However, I did schedule a meeting to talk with the director of counseling, who oversees, several different areas. That's from veterans, student accessibility resources, advising and counseling, career services, all of those that deals with student affairs. So I did meet with the director of counseling, talk with her, share with her that, I'd love to do my practicum here, and if it was a possibility. And she definitely did agree. I did give her the information that, of course, we're supposed to give to our own site supervisor, just to let them know what the expectations are on their part, on my part, what it would look like. And so that's pretty much the way it was. It wasn't a formal application process. And I think it was because I was, by then a new employee.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, I think that's encouraging. I think there are a lot of ways to find internships, and yeah, sometimes it doesn't happen in the typical like you apply. Sometimes it's someone you know, or
Mhm.
you're applying for a job, and opportunities come up. So to be open minded, and make sure pay attention. You never know what might come up. So yeah. All right. I would love to learn a little bit more about the internship experience itself. So what was your day-to-day, work like?
Okay, so the internship and then what my day to day were just varied just a little bit because my job part of it was I am in charge. Well, first, let me say this. I work with Student Accessibility Resources Office, and what we do is we make sure that students do receive accommodations, according to 80-day ADA, and if they have a documented, disability outlined in ADA, then they come to our office. They do apply for accommodations, and so my part in that of what I'm tasked with day to day is I oversee interpreting, cart services, and note taking, whether it's digital, electronic, or whether it's a live note taker. And so that's what my day-to-day job is. But of course, in the course of that day, it can be a student that comes in that's, really having an issue with an instructor, have questions about their accommodations being implemented. The instructor is, not really working with them. And they're just, having a hard time navigating. And so those were my day-to-day duties that I did. So for example, with interpreting, we have a student that have courses and they need an interpreter. My job was to contact the providers that we have and get interpreters lined up for all of the classes. I had one student who, of course, had 5 classes, and so those classes are Monday and Wednesday or Tuesday, Thursdays, but getting interpreters set up for those classes in addition to cart services as well. And then, some students may want a live note taker to come to, class. And of course, they take the notes and upload them. And so those were my day-to-day duties is what it was. In addition to that, I really got into the assistive technology as well. And so I was learning about different assistive technologies for students with disabilities, with low vision, with any type of chronic or um, mental disabilities. And so I found a lot of really, cool and neat assistive technologies. For example, there's a student who was in a wheelchair due to a stroke, and they were right-handed, but with the stroke loss, was wasn't able to walk. They were in the wheelchair. They were not able to use their right hand. So there is this roller mouse. It's a piece of assistive technology, but anyone can use it if you have carpal tunnel. But because they only had use of just one finger, that roller mouse was really an interesting thing for them to use. And even with voice, there was another piece where there was an X-Tab. It's called a Revelab X-Tab wireless microphone. You actually put it on, and I can sit here, and while I'm talking to you with this interview, it actually is typing out, and it's more like speech to text, and it's typing out because they had problems as well, typing a paper. So that's how they wrote their paper. So I had really a lot of fun, finding really cool assistive technologies that help them so that they are successful, in their educational careers. Now, aside of those day-to-day duties, then there was the practica, because of course there were things that I had to do with that. There was discussions that I had to have with the on-site supervisor each week. I did have to document the things that I worked on. Of course, we did have learning goals at the beginning of the semester, and I reported on those each week. And so they kind of aligned sometimes, but the interesting thing working with students with disabilities and then this office is no two, students are the same. No 2 days are the same. They can kind of somewhat be a little similar, but they're totally different, and you're constantly learning. Every day I learn something new. a new piece, a new something. And so that's kind of what the day to day is. I know it was a lot, but you just have to be flexible and just adapt.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's really, really important work. And so we have a lot of students doing that. And so, all right. My next question, what kind of role did your supervisor play in your professional development during this experience?
So during my professional development, she played a really good role. There were things that she tasked me with. One of the things that she tasked me with was really taking the helm of assistive technology. And so what she would do is she would conduct the intake appointments with the students. But if there was some type of assistive technology that was needed for them, then what I did was I did intake for assistive technology. So if there was some type of equipment or something, then I sat down with the student to see, okay, what are you familiar with? And then talk with them to see if the technology would benefit them, if it's something that they're interested or willing to learn. But that's what she really wanted me to embrace, because it's not just the traditional alternative formatting. There are so many different other things. And so she really opened my eyes to see and just taught me how to be adaptable and flexible. Um, and She always talked to me about growing, make sure that you're growing and to always grow and always to learn. She encouraged me to be a part of Texas Ahead, and just so many different opportunities. She just put before me, asking me, is this something that you'd be interested in? I think you'd be good at this. You want to take a look at it. So she definitely played a really big role in me really truly embracing and getting the full effects of the practicum and the things that I did learn during my practicum.
She sounds like a fantastic supervisor. So
Yes.
that's wonderful. Neat. All right. Well, what were some of the highlights of the role for you?
Some of the highlights of the roles, well, when the students come back and they say, oh, you know what, I got an A in this class, or, oh, I aced this test, or, I bombed this test, but you know what, I know what to do next time and I know what I need to do. And just the students just coming in, just to sit. Sometimes they'll come in and they'll just want to sit. And so just being able to, um, communicate with them and just talk with them and just listen to them, were just some really good highlights. And it just makes you feel wonderful that they're happy and that they have achieved that goal. And of course that you did have some small part in it, but they actually did all of the work themselves.
Oh, that's so cool. Sounds
Mm.
very fulfilling. So,
Yes.
all right. Were there any challenges you faced during the course of your internship?
Any challenges? There were I wouldn't necessarily say challenges. I would say because there were times where I didn't, how should I say this? When you don't have the experience and it's right there before you, and something that you definitely have to learn, and sometimes is you're having to learn it off the fly, um, or you're thrust in situations to where you don't really have experience. Those can be challenging. Um, and what I mean by that, for example, um, I had a student who had came into the SAR office and was just not in a very good space at that time, a few days before. But they presented to the SAR office, for assistance. But they didn't want to talk with anyone other than me. And it was just it was out of my scope, is what I felt. But I think because we had established a rapport and there was a trust, they only wanted to speak with me. And so that was just a little challenging because it was just, it didn't have to necessarily do with assistive technology or um, kind of somewhat of, disability. It definitely had to, but it was more on a personal level. So that was a little challenging for me because you wonder, did I do the right thing? Did I say the right thing? But what I have learned and what I've learned throughout the practicum is some things there is a right answer and there's a wrong answer, but most of it, for the most part, it's all gray and you're both figuring it out together. So that's why I say it was kind of challenging, but it wasn't. It's just one of those things where you're just thrust in there and you just make the best of it.
That's a great example. Yeah,
Mhm.
sure. All right. Next question. What were your biggest takeaways from the experience?
My biggest takeaway from the experience is to always keep learning and keep growing, especially when it comes to disabilities and individuals with disabilities and what's out there. The other thing is always reach out if you don't know and if you don't have the answer. Like I know I have other campuses and I can pick up the phone and I can say, hey, this is what I came across today. Have you all experienced that? If so, how did you handle it? Also, I think that being part of any type of organization, no matter what field that you work in, not just to network, but to, um, they help you with, when there's questions or there's challenges. I know that if there's something that I can jump on Texas Ahead and I can put this in the chat. And before the end of the day, several people from across the country that I've never met is so willing to share that information. And so become a part of an organization that you work with, not just to network to, maybe just find a job, but that you can connect with. So, and I was really glad about the experience that I had. So those were my biggest takeaways. Never stop growing, never stop learning, and join an organization that lines up with what you're doing.
I love that advice. That's really
Mm.
awesome. All right. Next question. How did this internship, if at all, how did it influence your future career plans?
I do think I was pretty set in what I wanted to do. Um, how did this internship I think it more so solidified it. I felt like this showed me that, you know what, I'm in the right field. I'm where I want to be. It's what I thought it was, even though I don't know everything, but it did solidify that, you know what, yes, you made the right decision. Yes, this is the area that you want to work in, is what it, is what it is. And I think that's the intent and the purpose of internships to let you see, because what we think we want to do and when we actually get in the field and actually do it can be something totally different. And so I do think that that's one of the things that internships can allow an individual and me myself to see that, you know what, yeah, I made the right choice and it was the right fit for me. For some reason, I can't hear
I know,
you.
I forgot to turn
Oh,
on
okay.
my mute.
Okay.
My apologies. Yeah,
That's okay.
that's always the hope. So the internship will either solidify what you want to do, or it'll be like, no, no, that's actually not at all what I wanted to do. But that's awesome. So, all right. My next question: overall, would you recommend internship experiences just generally for undergraduate students? And do you have any advice for them? Also, specifically for yes, for any advice for them?
So, yes, I would highly recommend internships for undergraduates. I would actually even recommend internships starting freshman year. of school, because by then you get several different areas that you can look at instead of in the last year. I would
Mhm.
highly encourage individuals to, get out there and see, apply for internships and different ones. If you have, if you've undecided, the ones that you have kind of thought about, find an internship or even a summer internship on it to see if it's something that you're possibly even interested in before you spend a lot of time and money going to school for it. And then you get out and say that's not the field that I was interested in. So yes, I would, and advice, start internshipping in that freshman year early on, because while you're interning and learning, yes, this is for me, and no, it's not, but you're also networking with individuals that you may meet later on down the line who may have once you decide, where you want to be, they may actually be in that field. So it's a good way to network as well.
That's wonderful advice. I wish someone had told me that when I was a
Yeah.
freshman in
Mhm.
college, for sure. I have another question to add to that. Do you have any advice for non-traditional students as they go about their college careers and trying to figure out what they'd like to do? Yeah, do you have any advice for them specifically?
So for non-traditional, and I somewhat call myself non-traditional, but I try not to label myself because I think now there's really not a traditional student
I agree.
now. But I would say for someone like me that has been out of school for over 30 years and decide to go back, it started and stopped. You know what? Just continue, no matter what, just continue and persevere. Be open and don't be afraid to the new learning environment, because the learning environment is totally different. I remember the Blue Books in 1987, with and having to write the essays and things, but not to give up, but just to embrace it, even the different learning platforms, the learning styles, and how education is now delivered, because I think that this is the future. And I think once I got past that, I was pretty good, but I was really afraid of the learning platform and how it was going to be delivered, and if I was going to learn anything online. And there were many days where I was like, God, I'd rather just go to school, go to class than this, because it was really challenging. But I definitely learned a lot in my classes, and I feel that I really got what I paid for. So I got my money's worth at UNT, and that's what I'd say.
I'd like
So
to hear that.
yes,
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. So I know that'll be encouraging
yes,
for
yes.
students. So, well, those were all my questions. Was there anything you were hoping to talk about today that we didn't get to?
Um, no, I don't think there was anything that we did not talk about. I'm just kind of thinking and pondering. Um,
Did you
I
mention
know,
what your, oh, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
sorry, I know that there are, for the practicum, like for rehabilitation studies, and I'm sure different for different colleges, there may be internships and things like that. But
Mhm.
um, and I know I've seen from time to time other study abroads, and and different opportunities for internships, and things like that. So I would love to just see, more of that. Now, of course, I can't take advantage of it now, but that would be great.
Yeah, thank you for letting me know. We're definitely still building our internship programs. And now that COVID is sort of behind us, where
Yes.
there's more in-person opportunities that'll be presenting themselves. But I will definitely be putting this, it's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, putting this down as one of those, areas that we're really going to try to focus in on. But if you know anyone that would like to establish some sort of shadowing or internship program, feel free to let me know, or anyone on our team know that. So, because we are definitely looking to hopefully grow, and establish more of those programs. So, got a
I,
little bit difficult with COVID, but so it's definitely something we're focused on. So,
I sure will. And I'll actually find out what the formal process is as a student coming in, that
uh-huh.
is not, going through employment. I will find out what that process is for Tarrant County College. and, and definitely let you know, update you on it and let you know.
That would be absolutely wonderful. Yeah,
Mm.
I love that.
Yes.
So, yeah. Did you mention, you might have mentioned at the beginning, did you mention what you're doing now?
So what I'm doing now, I'm a student development assistant, and so I am working with students with disabilities,
Mhm,
getting accommodations. I'm doing intake assessments for assistive technology,
mhm.
and also with I do the interpreting, CART services. Um, and note taking is what I do. I also assist with proctoring, like alternative testing, like if the student gets accommodations for a distraction reduced room, extended time to take tests, if they get some type of alternative format like speech to text or screen reader, those sort of things. And then just making sure that our testing center is always functioning. We actually had, since I've been here, and I'm actually in the alternative testing center now because we've gotten so many students now. And it's really grown that um, we've gotten this put together and we've got new furniture. As I'm looking around, we've got new furniture. We've got desk magnifiers. We've got tables that lift and let down. So if a student, is in a wheelchair, we have ergonomic chairs in here, ergonomic mouses. I mean, it's just really nice. It's a nice testing center. So, yeah, so that's what I do now. And I help put this together. So, yeah.
That is so neat. And
Mm.
yes, definitely sounds like you're in the right place from what you've said.
Yes. Yes.
So, well,
Yes.
thank you so much, Adrena. Really
You're
appreciate you taking
welcome.
time out of your
Absolutely.
busy schedule to meet with me. I know this is going to be super encouraging to a lot of students.
Yes. 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 Yes.
So thank you so much.
Wonderful. You are so welcome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me.
I really appreciate you being here today. Thank you so
All right. Take care.
much.